Welcome back, everyone. We're still in Preferences in the User tab, but now we're moving into the Editing, Color, and Fairlight sections. The first section here is New Timeline Settings. And our first box is Start Timecode. When you first install Resolve, it may default to starting at the 1 hour mark. And that's common in film and TV because it leaves headroom before the program starts. But if you're working on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or any non-broadcast project, you can leave this starting at all zeros. And this is because it feels more intuitive and makes tracking your duration simpler. Next, we've got the default number of video and audio tracks that Resolve opens with. And then below that, you can choose the audio track type for your default audio tracks, things like stereo, mono, or multi-channel. And just remember, you can add, remove, or change track types directly in Resolve's timeline. And you're not limited to whatever you choose here in Preferences. And next, we're moving on to Automatic Smart Bins. In DaVinci Resolve, smart bins are basically dynamic bins that automatically show you any clips that match specific metadata. The big advantage is they update on their own as you add metadata or make changes. Our first selection is Smart Bin for Timelines. When this is enabled, Resolve creates an automatic smart bin that collects all the timelines in your project, so they are easy to find in one place. Next is Automatic Smart Bins for Keywords. If you add keywords to clips in the metadata panel, Resolve will automatically create a smart bin for each keyword and keep them updated. You can also drag clips into a keyword smart bin to assign that keyword. And then we have Automatic Smart Bin Collections. With this enabled, Resolve automatically creates a collection set with individual bins for dialogue, video clips, audio only, music, SFX, and more. This is really handy when you want to quickly isolate common media and audio types. Next, we have Automatic Smart Bins for People Metadata. Just keep in mind, generating people metadata requires DaVinci Resolve Studio. To generate your people metadata, head to the media page and select your clips or clip in the media pool. Then right-click and select AI Tools and then Analyze Clips for People. This opens up a pop-up where you can name and manage people. And if you ever need to get this pop-up open again, you can go to DaVinci Resolve's main menu under Workspace and select People. And then we have Automatic Smart Bins for shot and scene metadata. And again, this creates bins based on you filling in the shot or scene number in the metadata panel. Next up is General Settings. Our first section here is Durations. These control the default lengths Resolve uses when you add certain things to a timeline. Our first option is Standard Generator Duration. This sets how long the built-in generators are when you drop them onto a timeline. Next is Standard Transition Duration. This is the default length Resolve uses when you drop a transition onto a timeline. And then we have Standard Still Duration. This controls the length of the imported still images when you drop them onto a timeline. And then we have Pre-roll and Post-roll. Pre-roll is the few seconds before the point you want to check, and post-roll is the few seconds after. Resolve uses these values when you use the play around and play to features. Next is audio subframe nudging. This setting controls how far Resolve moves audio when you use the keyboard nudge commands. Option plus left arrow moves the subframe backward, and Option plus right arrow moves the subframe forward. And next we have handle length. Handles are just extra frames before and after your edit. So you've got room to trim later or add transitions without running out of media. Next is Default Fast Nudge. This controls how many frames Resolve moves a selected clip when you use Shift and comma and Shift and period. After that, you've got pre-playhead shadow length and post-playhead shadow length. This controls how many frames before and after the playhead get that faint shaded overlay. Next is automatically switch to single viewer mode when opening Trim Editor. So this just means that the viewer becomes one large window, so you get a bigger, clearer view while you're trimming. Next is Timeline Overlay retains the last performed action. When you drag a clip over the timeline viewer, you'll see that big edit overlay. Things like insert, overwrite, replace, and so on. If you turn this on, Resolve will remember the last overlay action you used. So the next drag and drop defaults to that same edit. And then we have always highlight current clip in the media pool. This means whenever you select a clip in your timeline, Resolve automatically highlights that same clip in the media pool, so it's easy to locate. And next is limit timecode display to 24 hours. So it'll start at 0 and go up to 23:59 and then wrap back to 0. Next is prioritize pasting to in-out range. With this enabled, paste will respect the in and out range you've marked. Next is sync the master timeline to the current frame. For this to work, you need to be using a master timeline. The first thing you need to do is start a brand new empty project. And then we want to go to Project Settings, General Options, Color section, and turn on Automatically Match Master Timeline with Media Pool. There is also a checkbox for Use Local Version for new clips in Timeline. Once those settings are enabled, import your media and Resolve will create a master timeline. And then you'll have the option to jump between that normal timeline and your master timeline. And when you go to the color page, having a master timeline available can be really useful. Next are the options for Show Offline Reference for timeline gaps and Show Offline Reference for non-conformed edits. So here's how to link an offline reference clip to a timeline. First, you need to go to the media page. In the media storage panel on the left, where your drives and folders are, find your reference movie, then right-click it and choose Add as Offline Reference Clip. Resolve will add it to the media pool and you'll see a small checkerboard badge on the thumbnail so you'll know it's the offline reference. In the media pool, right-click, choose Timelines, and then select Link Offline Reference Clip, and then select that offline reference movie. Next is Use Custom Safe Area Overlays. This is a user preference that lets you override the default Action Safe and Title Safe guide sizes that Resolve shows in the viewer. Next is Retain Sync and avoid overwrites with ripple edits. Now, a lot of editors don't love this default behavior because it can cause long clips like titles or music beds to get split up whenever you ripple delete or ripple trim. If you prefer the old behavior, you can uncheck this box. If you do want the safer ripple trimming, leave it on and instead control what you want using Sync Lock track by track. Tracks with sync lock enabled will ripple and may get split to maintain sync. Tracks with sync lock disabled won't get split. Next is align audio edits to frame boundaries. With it on, all audio in and out points and trims are restricted to full frames just like video. With it off, you can trim or roll audio between frames using subframes. Next is configure clips as multi-mono on import. When this is enabled, Resolve will automatically split a multi-channel or multi-mic recording into separate mono tracks as you import it. Next is limit media pool audio sync to first timecode match. When you auto sync video to external audio in the media page, Resolve will normally attach every WAV file it finds that overlaps the clip's timecode, stacking each one onto its own track. Turning on Limit Media Audio Pool Audio Sync to First Timecode Match tells Resolve to attach first match and ignore any other overlapping files. In the media page, you will need to put your media, the video and audio files, in a new bin. Then right-click the bin and choose the following: Auto Sync Audio, and then Based on Timecode. In the pop-up window, you'll see two checkboxes. Retain Embedded Audio. This keeps the camera's original audio in addition to the synced wave. And then Retain Video Metadata. This prevents the wave's metadata, like your scene or take, from overwriting the video file's metadata, so your camera clip's metadata stays intact. And here's how you can verify it worked. In the media pool, switch to List View and check the synced audio column. Then on the edit page, drag the video clip into the timeline. To see exactly which file is being used, enable the following. In DaVinci's main menu, select View and Show File Names and View. You can also make sure that Overlay Synced Audio file names are checked as well. And finally, we have Import Finder Tags as keywords. When this option is enabled on your Mac OS, DaVinci Resolve will read the Finder tags attached to your media files at the OS level. Moving on, the next section is text, and there's a checkbox here for display only specific fonts. When this is enabled, Resolve will only show a white list of fonts in its font menus. When you turn it on, Resolve will prompt you to choose a font filter file. This is just a plain UTF-8 text file with one rule per line. Each line can either be an exact font name or a wildcard pattern using an asterisk. And the last section here is default fades. This sets the default curve shapes Resolve uses when you create audio fade in, fade out, and crossfades. Now let's move into the color section. And our first section here is general settings. The first option here is Master Reset maintains RGB balance. This changes how the reset buttons on a hardware color panel, like the Blackmagic Design, Micro, Mini, or Advanced panels, affect your primary color corrections. If you don't have a hardware panel connected, this preference won't have any visible effect. Next is Wipe Wraps when viewing reference stills. On the color page with this enabled, if you slide the wipe past the far edge, it wraps around and starts again from the other side. With this off, the wipe hits the edge, it stops there, and you can't push it any further. Next is High Visibility Power Window Outlines. This affects how a power window looks on the color page. When this is off, the outline is thinner and has a lower contrast. When it's on, Resolve draws the outline and controls in a more visible and higher contrast way. Next is Mattes Display High Contrast, Black and White. So when it's off, Highlight uses the flat gray style. Selected pixels stay in their original color and everything else is shown as gray. And when it's on, Highlight defaults to High Contrast, Black and White. So the selected areas are white and the unselected areas are black. So how does this all work? Go to the color page and select the node you're keying. Open the qualifier palette in the middle panel and choose your mode, either HSL or 3D. Then turn on the qualifier tool so the eyedropper is lit. Then in the viewer, click on the target color. Once you do this, it will generate a map. Next is Next Scene switches to Visible Track. This changes how the Next Scene command works on the color page. With this off, Next Scene jumps to the next clip in the thumbnail timeline regardless of track, even if that clip is hidden underneath another clip on a higher video track. With it on, if the next point in the timeline has stacked clips, Next Scene will jump to the clip on the highest visible track. Next is Previous or Next Node navigates only to correctors. This changes how node navigation works on the color page. With it enabled, the previous node and next node commands will skip non-corrector nodes and only move between corrector nodes, meaning nodes that actually do grading. And with this off, node navigation will step through every node in the node tree. Next is preserve node numbers when adding nodes. When this is on, every new node gets the next unused number in the order you created, and existing nodes keep their original number, even if you insert a node in the middle of the node tree. And when this is off, Resolve will automatically reflow and renumber nodes based on their position in the tree. So adding a node in the middle can renumber everything downstream. Next is always perform copy and paste on selected nodes. Turn this on so copy and paste only affects the nodes you've selected, instead of accidentally copying or pasting the entire grade. Next is use legacy auto color and shot match. Turning this on switches auto color and shot match back to Resolve's pre-neural engine method. Next is histogram background on tools. This controls the faint histogram you can see behind the curves palette on the color page. The three choices are as follows. The first selection is off. The next selection is input. This shows the histogram of what's coming into the node. Your curve changes won't affect that background graph, which makes it great for seeing the unaltered signal you're adjusting. And then we have output. This shows the histogram of what's coming out of the node, so the graph updates as you adjust the curve. Next is automatically queue X amount of frames in the timeline clips. Normally when you jump to the next or previous clip on the color page, Resolve lands on the first frame of the new clip. This setting tells Resolve to land a few frames into the shot instead. Next is neighboring clips in split screen. This sets how many surrounding timeline clips appear when you use the following: split screen and then neighbor clips on the color page. Next is switching clips. When you move to a different clip on the color page, Resolve decides which node becomes active on that new clip. Here are the 4 behaviors you can choose from. Selects last adjusted node, so each clip remembers the node you last worked on for that clip, and when you return, that same node is selected again. Next, we have selects first node. This always selects node 1 on the new clip. Next, we have selects last node, and this one always selects the final node. And lastly, we have selects same node. This selects the same node number you were on in the previous clip. Just keep in mind, if the new clip has fewer nodes, it selects the highest available node. And the last in this group is color picker. This changes how Resolve samples color when you use the eyedropper. There are only 2 options here: DaVinci Resolve, the modern normal picker, and DaVinci 2K, the legacy picker from older DaVinci systems. Next is ripple mode. This controls how Resolve applies your change from the current clip to other clips when you use ripple command on the color page. In other words, it defines how the adjustment gets translated onto the target clips. And lastly, we've got printer light step calibration. Before digital color grading, films were timed at the lab using optical printers. Color timers would adjust printer points, small thick steps in red, green, and blue to balance shots. Resolve's printer lights emulate those discrete steps, and this calibration setting tells Resolve how big each step should be. For most people, you can ignore this and leave it at its defaults. Next, in the User tab, we move into the Fairlight section. The first option is Video I/O Offset. Next, we see Video Monitor Offset by X amount of frames. If your video signal path has converters, a projector, or even a TV with heavy processing, It will add delay and you'll see the lips happening late compared to the sound coming from your speakers.
What do you want? Is that one-eyed bastard here? Who the hell are you? You dare call our boss that? You bums obviously don't know me.
You would then set your offset to match that delay so picture and sound line back up. Next is apply offset during jog and shuttle. This extends that same video early offset to scrubbing, jog, and shuttle. Turn this on if you want lip sync to stay correct while you're queuing around with the transport controls or a jog wheel. Next, we have general settings. Our first selection is loop jog alignment. So what exactly is loop jog? It's a scrubbing mode where Resolve continuously loops a short slice of audio around the playhead while you jog. So back at the loop jog alignment dropdown, you have three options. Your first selection is pre, which loops the audio before the playhead. Then we have centered, which loops audio straddling the playhead with equal audio before and after. And finally, we have post, which loops audio after the playhead. Next is loop jog width. This sets the duration of the audio slice that repeats during the loop jog. Next, we have enable auto patching. When this is enabled, if you arm a track for record, Resolve automatically patches the first system audio input to that track's input. It's convenient if you want to arm and go without opening patch IO. If you want to avoid surprises, I personally would suggest to leave this off and patch things manually. Next is mixer follows selected track. With this on, when you select a track in the timeline, the mixer will focus that channel strip and bring it over to the left side of the mixer panel so it's easier to find and adjust. And the next one is include mixer events in undo history. This adds mixer changes like mute, solo, pan, and similar controls into Fairlight's undo history stack. And the final section here is automation. Our first selection is glide time. This is the time Resolve uses to smoothly ramp back from a control you've touched to the previously recorded level when you're using snap and snap latch for faders. And finally, we have write on preset or clipboard paste. When this is enabled, Resolve will actually write automation events onto the track. And that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll still be in preferences under the user tab, but we'll be moving on to the playback, control panels, and metadata sections. Be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.